I'm Farhan Dalla, transformational trainer, and welcome to Elevate Your Life, a transformational podcast, an invitation to take the journey towards your deepest self. It is my intention to inspire you to connect, move, and meditate. We'll tap in, tune in, and dive in, and together learn and reflect from authentic, real, and transformative conversations. Let's get started. Today, we are talking music and grief relief, and I have the distinct pleasure to introduce to you all my friend Neha Mahajan. Neha is an extraordinarily talented actress, musician, and has a passion for making our planet more beautiful with various green initiatives. She is a true example of someone who is elevating our world. She was raised in Talegaon, a small town in Pune, India. She's the daughter to a father who is a musician and a mother who taught literature in college. She got a scholarship to study in Texas just after school called AYA, or Academic Year in America, which took her to Fort Worth, where she majored in theater. Following which, she completed a master's in philosophy at the University of Pune, while pursuing her passion for acting and sitar. She's been learning the sitar from her father at a very young age, and also from two other gurus in the last 5 years. She started her acting career with Deepa Mehta's Midnight's Children, and have worked in Hindi, English, Oriya, Malayalam, and Marathi films. Currently, she's staying on a farm with her partner Bradley, who is pursuing his PhD at the University of Toronto. And while on the farm, she's learning to care for cows while working on her green initiatives. And at the same time, she's acting in films, writing on her music, and composing. Neha just finished shooting a film called Kevin Knife. Neha loves spending time in nature, and I know this because I've had the pleasure of going on some hikes and trails while she was in Toronto last year. And we even did a labyrinth meditation together in Toronto's High Park, which was an amazing experience to share with her. And for those of you who don't know, a labyrinth is basically an ancient practice used by many different faiths for spiritual centering, contemplation, and prayer. Entering the path of a labyrinth, you walk slowly while quieting your mind and focusing on a spiritual question or prayer. And lastly, this introduction would not be complete without mentioning Neha Mahajan is featured playing the sitar in a collaboration with the song with none other than Ricky Martin. The song is titled Mi Sangre and on the album Pausa, and it won a Latin Grammy Award, as well was nominated for a Grammy in the Best Latin Pop or Urban category. Neha Mahajan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Farhan. That was so nice of you. You're too kind to me always.
But all of this is true. So, when you hear your bio, like, what do you think? Like, when you hear about all your accomplishments, like, it's so incredible when I read it. But how does it make you feel?
It's kind of weird to put it all together and read as a bio, but I
Mhm.
feel like this is something that's special to you too. That when you meet someone, you really focus on the things that they can be proud of and feel happy about. And I
Mhm.
remember meeting you in Toronto and feeling really nice about myself. Like, oh yeah, I have done this, and maybe I can do better or some. So no, I just want to thank you. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be speaking with you on your podcast. And I'm looking forward to this chat.
Yeah. And, in all our conversations that we had while in Toronto or over the phone, there's always been incredible depth and breadth. So I really appreciate your time, your energy, your talents, and all that it is that you have to share. And I'm really excited about having you here and diving in deep into this conversation about music and grief relief.
Same
And
here. Yeah.
yeah, and before we talk about all that stuff, I mean I do know this story, but I was wondering if you would just take a few minutes to tell everyone about how the connection with Ricky Martin happened.
Yeah, sure. I also think I know that you really love Ricky Martin's music, and
What
perhaps
gave
that
that
was
away?
no, because I think that's also part of the reason how we bonded and we came
Yes.
together.
Yes.
So so it's only right to begin this with the story of my collaboration with Ricky Martin, which was also so um, inspiring, and there was so much learning attached to my experience with that song itself. Because honestly, I was very surprised that Ricky Martin's team found me on Instagram, because I had posted a song, like a, not even a song. I play rag music particular to the sitar and Indian rag music, and I had posted a video of that on Instagram. And on the one of the first comments was from Ricky Martin's manager, who she introduced me later that. She's working on this song and is looking for like a sitar player to work on it. And to be honest, at first I thought this wasn't real, and so I took my time gauging whether this person is real, and if whatever, like, because social media is a tricky place. But turns out that it was real and the song was real. And later on, I spoke to the entire team and understood what my role in the song was. And interestingly, we all were at separate places, but we recorded our music. And listening to the song, I feel like it's the power of music too, that despite us being geographically far apart, we were still thinking of the song as this one thing that we were all doing together. And I think the song's beautiful.
It
I
is a
hope you all
beautiful
agree.
song. Yes, I love it. And I love how this song came together because it was at a time when we were all isolated from each other and separate.
Right.
And yet,
Hmm.
from different parts of the world, you were able to create this beautiful song. And,
Hmm.
the sitar is one of my favorite instruments. And I often used music with the sitar in many of my classes that I taught, whether it was the
Hmm.
cool down for a spinning class or part of a yoga class. I just love the
Hmm.
sound of the sitar. And I'm also a huge fan of Latin music. And I think it's just beautiful how the sounds came together and merged so seamlessly. Putting
Hmm.
Spanish lyrics and Latin music in the sitar, it just, the unification in the project is so exemplified in the song. So, congratulations.
Thank you. I agree. Thank you so much.
And will we be seeing a video of the song anytime in the near future?
We have spoken about it, but with the pandemic right now, I don't know how we are gonna resume our travels across borders. What that's gonna take, and let's just wait and see how the world itself decides to move on. And what
Yeah.
happens, and let's hope for the best. I am looking forward to this video myself. Just
And was this the first ever recording that you ever released or were part of?
Uh,
Like,
y- I think yes, because I have not really recorded a song. Like my music has always been rags, and I remember playing for like a dance troupe where two of my other friends and I had played the sitar, but it was a composition that my father had made, and we were playing for this dance troupe, but it wasn't recorded similarly in this way. So it definitely was my first experience of mixing the sound of the sitar with Ricky Martin's voice and with the different singers, with having the chorus at the back. So even when I was recording in the studio, I had in one year I had the different songs, like the different beats and the different voices of music of the singers. And then in one year I had what I was playing. So it was a very, very different experience for me.
so your acting career starts off with Deepa Mehta, and then your first major recording starts off with Ricky Martin, and the song wins a Grammy. How does that make you feel?
I just feel really blessed, really lucky, and it's amazing. It's like I feel like it's a big jump in a river. So you don't get the chance to see whether the water is cold or hot, or you just jump in the river, and then And then you realize, oh my God, it's a big river. There's a lot of things I need to do. And, I like, even with Deepa Mehta's film, it was an ensemble cast. So I got to meet about 15 different actors, really successful actors, at the peak of their careers, and see them in action, which itself is such a rare thing. I think even in films, to have an ensemble cast is not always. It's still a pretty rare thing, right? So for me, I felt that meeting all these people at once, seeing the way they work, because we had workshops, gave me an insight into what it would mean for me to be part of this amazing vast ocean of films and acting. And similarly with music, right? I feel like it's a pretty good first, and I'm lucky, and I hope that it's not the last.
I certainly don't think it'll be the last. And having heard you perform and play, and with the song as well, I certainly hope that you will be recording and releasing more music at some time in the near future.
I hope to. For now, I'm
Yeah.
concentrating on movies and learning music. And the moment my gurus also feel that I can record, I want to. Right now, I'm working on maybe what I could record and what albums I could make. But I also want to make sure that my gurus are happy and proud of me and say, okay, you can record now. And I think that's going to take a while.
Sounds good. We will be waiting in anticipation. Um, and so, this year has been challenging for a lot of us, and
Mm-hmm.
many of us have experienced all kinds of losses. That's kind of why I've started this podcast, and
Right.
for us to share through authentic conversation what some of these losses are, and hopefully share some tools to help people through their own individual process. But I'm curious to ask you, if there's anything that this past year or of recent that you've been grieving about, or an experience of loss that you've had, and would you be willing to share that with us today?
So when we decided to speak about grief and music, I did think a lot about what it is that I'm grieving about, because it's what is grief. I think it is a kind of sense of loss, and having to reorganize your whole life based on that sense of loss or absence. And I feel that in my, like, when I think about grief, I think about this very particular incident in my life when I lost my brother when I was very young. But instead of focusing on that, I feel that this sense of loss always accompanies our everyday life, especially in the past one year and a half, because of the pandemic. Because it's not just a personal loss, but a certain loss of freedom, a certain sense of where we are, where the world is going, where our what's going to happen to our friends and family. And I feel that yes, there is a lot of um, grieving that we all have to go through, and not just a particular incident, even small incidents, even the fact that I lose my concentration while I'm doing something that I want my concentration. I feel that that's also, why does that happen? Why does that anxiety sort of leak in? And those things are all intertwined into this sense of loss. And I think it's an everyday struggle to maintain focus and happiness and creativity to bring something out of all of this, despite where we're at right now.
And so for you individually,
Mm-hmm.
you talked about the smaller griefs and the
Mm-hmm.
larger griefs, but how does that show up for you? What does that feel like? And everyone's different, but
Mm-hmm.
how does grief show up or look like for you?
Um, I think there's a sense of helplessness, and that you just cannot do anything about the loss of my brother. Like, like it's the finality of death is extreme. So the way it shows up, I guess, is that I just sort of freeze sometimes and think, um, what next, or what's going to happen, or what does this even mean? What does the world look like with such a big hole in it? Or even with the smaller griefs, I feel like I think grief, if I allow myself to stay with it long, sort of makes me inactive. And that uh, is the I wouldn't call it negative. I'm choosing my words a little properly, because it's not negative, it's inevitable. But when grief makes me inactive, I know that I have to do something. And that's where I know that a lot of things that I do with music, or with acting, or with my friends and family, I feel that all of those things help me to maintain this sort of movement and creativity that I really long for in my life. So this inactivity and this freezing, or this anxiety, or this sort of not wanting to do anything is
Mm.
part of how grief shows up,
Yeah. And how do you personally cope with grief?
Hmm. Mm, I try.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that first off, I think I'm really blessed that I have this beautiful instrument. And um, with the sitar, I feel there is always a lot of energy with the sound itself. So even if I just pick the instrument up and play, I think it helps me to be affected by the beauty of the notes and the sound. So even if I'm not particularly creative, I feel like the instrument itself is so beautiful that it affects my mood. And then it's like a relationship. And I think the way I cope with anything sad in my life is by doing a certain kind of um, action that involves reflection, where I deal with what I'm sad about, where I'm not avoiding it. But then it becomes daunting if I'm just staring at it open eyed without any. So I feel like playing the music, or going out into the garden and composting, or actions like that, where you're doing an action, you're engaging with something, but at the same time there is scope and possibility for me to think about what I'm grieving, or what is troubling me, or what I'm anxious about. Gives me a scope for contemplation, and just to sieve out what these feelings are, what these things are, what am I doing, and what are the reasons behind all of these. So I think first is reasons, finding out the reasons, realizing the different shades of feelings and emotions that um, are sometimes separate from the reasons, actually. And then just finding ways to channelize all of that into some coherent understanding of myself and the world.
Yeah. And
it's it,
so, mhm.
it's more like it sounds like it sounds like a plan, but it's a lot of work. I feel like with any sort of loss, with any sort of sadness, there is always a lot of work to do.
Do you feel that being an artist, especially as a musician or writer, composer, that
Hmm.
it allows for a connection to be able to tap into what it is that you're feeling, to get contemplating, that the music
Hmm.
and the art serves as a pathway for you to be able to get to that space of evaluating what those emotions are?
Right. um Certainly, I would. I think that as an actor, there is a certain vulnerability in me, which sometimes leaks into even my personal life. Like I tend to be open and vulnerable and honest, and I feel that those things really help me when I am in front of the camera, because then I know that whatever the character or whoever the director and whatever is happening on set, I know that I can give my entire self without any sort of hesitation, which I have seen in some people, where oh, what if I make a fool of myself? I feel like I'm just always making a fool of myself anyway. So I feel like that kind of vulnerability and honesty helps me in being present when I'm acting, or even when I'm playing music. But then it's not all. I feel that um, with this, you need a certain discipline and methodology and reason, which needs work. So even if I'm okay, like even if as a person I can tap into all of these different mediums to help me with my grief, it's not just that. It still needs something else. And that, I think, is a matter of discipline. You know what I mean?
Yes, and the vulnerability is a key component because um, to face our grief really requires us to be vulnerable, and
Mm-hmm.
that can be quite challenging. So, do you find the vulnerability part difficult for you at times, or do you think that the music and the art and the acting helps you get there?
Mm-hmm. Um, at times, maybe, but I think whatever the cost of it, I feel that it's better to be able to be in a space where I feel vulnerable, where I feel affected, where I feel all these, um, I feel sensitively, rather than make myself thick skinned and, make like sort of a fortress so that it doesn't affect me. I personally think that it is, even if I wasn't an actress or a musician, but then I cannot really negate that. But I do think that being an actress and a student of music helps me to deal with this vulnerability. It channelizes it. It helps me to. It's like a give and take. So um, if I am feeling sensitively, then I will pour that into the work I'm doing. And then if the work I'm doing is also giving me a space to be vulnerable, then I can accept that vulnerability within me. So it's sort of a give and take with my work and myself. And strangely, I think with both the things that I do, the instrument, even if it is music or acting, like as a medium, the instrument is still me as a person, right? So
Mm,
just still, like, I'm still working a lot on myself when I do these things.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Um,
Hmm.
my family, had the immense blessings of your performance at my mother's celebration of life.
Hmm.
And I was so honored when I asked you if you would perform the sitar for us, and you said yes. And
Hmm.
it was an incredible moment for our family. Um,
Just as much for me, because I was
mm,
in Toronto at the time,
mhm.
and I was also missing home a little bit, and I I could feel how deeply you were affected, and anybody would. I mean, I think losing your mother is a very hard truth that everybody has to face. And so again, at that time, playing for you, understanding, or being part of your life, gave me a certain strength, and gave me also like a certain hope that I can be together in some way that will help you face what you're going through, which in itself is such a powerful feeling. So I also really appreciate that you wanted me to play at the time.
Yes, and you know, having a celebration of life isn't part of our traditional customs, but given that it was COVID and
Hmm.
we weren't able to um, perform the rites and rituals that we would normally do with the entire family, this was a way in which we could get the family worldwide to actually come together virtually to share some time together to honor my mom. And
Yeah.
the timing of you being here it was just synchronistic and a blessing. So it it really, like, my family could not stop talking about your performance. Everyone kept saying how they were so moved by it and so touched. And that's clearly a reflection of what you're able to create through your artistry, but also the heart that you put into your music, because we all felt that. And
And relating it to what we are speaking about, grief, that
mhm,
that when people are grieving, I think the most important thing is to find people who understand that and are able to partake in the grief and sort of either merely just listen or understand or help uplift. I feel is a very too many expectations on people, but but I feel that at least being together, you know, and
yes.
especially with loss, I feel that as people, the most we can do is just be there for each other. and and by that, I think, like when we are speaking about grief and the ways to cope with grief, I feel having that kind of humility, knowing that somebody else may be going through a certain sense of loss, and then, being considerate about that or being there is such a powerful thing. And um, so I just wanted to relate this incidents that you shared with the fact that I also felt the support, and you felt the support, and we were together, and we created some nice memories that helped us. And I think that's such a nice way to cope with something that is tough.
Yeah, and I do want to add that the experience itself is what I describe as transformative.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, in not just myself, but also in my family and people that are close to my mom, when we heard you play, it really helped shift some of the pain that we were feeling in that moment. And that is a very powerful thing.
And
Um,
the sound of the sitar is
mhm,
also a certain sound energy, right? So, like when you come out of a dark room and go in a space where there's breeze and sunshine, it affects your mood. I think similarly, the music sounds, good sound, not noise, affects the soul in a way that is hard to explain in words. So that's why I think music plays like an incredible role that we don't know, like the flowers or this or the rain or the sunshine plays a big role in our state of mind. And similarly, I think music, unknowingly, without even calling it meditation or therapy or whatever, I think listening to good music plays an incredible role in making just mentally stable or happy.
yeah, there's definitely a shift in our body. There's a shift in our mind as we're listening.
Hmm.
It takes us on a journey. And in many ways, it helps us connect to emotions that sometimes we can't verbalize, and
Hmm.
that we don't necessarily need to verbalize, but just to be able to experience through the
Hmm.
sound, like you said.
Hmm.
Um, and from my own personal experience, music has provided, whether I'm listening to you perform or what's called 528 hertz music. Um,
Hmm.
it just allows me to feel the emotions that I need to feel,
Hmm.
um, and connect to the parts of me sometimes that I'm not able to articulate. And
Hmm.
it just allows me to go into that space where I need to just be and allow the
Hmm.
music to do what it needs to do. It has an energy, like you says, and it's almost like it has a spiritual energy, because it works on such a deep level that sometimes we're not even able to describe what's happening. But in many ways, it's providing us with support and healing, calming,
Hmm.
and maybe, yeah, sometimes meditation as well.
And also, to add to what you're saying, I think it also gives us a window to the magical world of music. because even if it's not necessarily always healing or making, sometimes it's not just about emotions and healing, but sometimes it's just about witnessing an incredibly beautiful composition that just reminds you that there's so much beauty in the world, and that it can be created by something that's not really tangible, in the sense that I cannot really touch it. I cannot really even point a finger and say, this is what's beautiful about this composition, but just that the beauty exists. And I think those moments of witnessing something beautiful also help me sometimes in forgetting what I am dealing with, and then coming back to it, there's a new perspective. So
I love that.
because I can forget whatever it is and just witness something so beautiful that, then the space is created for me to come back to whatever is troubling me, and then I have a different kind of perspective towards it, because I feel like, okay, in the bigger picture there are these messy things, but then there are these beautiful things, so the choice is mine, right?
Mm. Yeah, that's true. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And how else, Neha, like I'm interested in your perspective about, specifically with grief as well, but how else can music help us with our grief or our grief journey?
I think there are two ways to answer this question, because if you're learning music, there are so many ways that one can, like just practicing every day, which I think gives a certain sense of discipline, a certain structure to your day. Um, like when I was going through a very difficult time, I still made sure that I woke up and I played music, and that gave my days a structure, so that I was not just, sleeping anytime. Or I feel like that structure, or that going back to the place where I know it gives me comfort, or it gives me a certain inspiration. Sometimes music doesn't give me comfort because I know I want to do this, but I'm not able to. So I have to practice doubly hard. But then that practice, and then achieving the phrase, suppose my guruma taught me something and it takes me 3 weeks to learn it. But then once I get it, the joy of it is so beautiful that it helps me to learn more. So as a student, I feel that just learning the instrument or learning whatever music you're learning is, keeps you on a sort of track where you have to improve, or you want to express, or find tools to express, or find certain phrases that say your expression the best. So that's one. But I think as a listener also, listening to great musicians. I listen to music a lot myself, and I feel that, I don't know, like the great musicians must have thought about the world in some uniquely beautiful way, and to listen to them with your whole heart and soul, and just like providing yourself to music and letting it affect you is also like a beautiful experience, like swimming again in a really beautiful river, because then once you're out of it you feel enriched. So the way I feel music can really help is by truly providing yourself to the music too, not just making it as a background. I especially think this true with Indian rag music, because sometimes, like, when are the times people listen to music? Driving a car, or washing dishes, or cleaning, or doing something other than music. But I feel there should be times, there should be pauses in our life where we just sit down and listen to music, and just really witness the beauty of it. And that affects that I think creates a beautiful image in our brains, and surely that must affect us to cope with everything, right?
Absolutely. And, from
Mm-hmm.
my experience in listening to certain songs, there's some that will make me laugh and cry, and
Yeah.
some will make me happy, and some will make me sad during,
Mm-hmm.
this whole process. But regardless, it's okay because it's all an expression of what I'm feeling.
Right.
And music gives us permission to feel all those things, and to know that that's okay, whatever it is that you're feeling in that moment. There's no right or
Mm-hmm.
wrong. It's just unique to where you're at, and
Yeah.
there's nothing to judge but just witness, as you say.
True, and like I remember this incident just from last week when two of my very close friends were at home, and we just had a nice conversation. We had food, and then at 11 o'clock, one of my friends just started playing some of our favorite songs, and we were so nostalgic and happy and excited that we just started dancing, and we possibly danced through the night. Like the four of us, we were just playing music, listening to the songs, and dancing. And now that we are speaking about music as a therapy or music as a tool of coping grief, I feel like music also as just being. And like even if it's just these old rock songs and film songs, and you're like dancing to it and you're listening to it and you're having fun, and then the next day, I just feel like a lot of things are indirectly um, taken care of, because while we're dancing with friends, we're not really thinking about what we're dealing with, or like coping particularly, but indirectly we're letting the music affect our bodies just as much as our souls, and dancing and sort of releasing everything that's pent up, maybe you know
Yes. And so lately, I've noticed that I've actually started to sing along with certain songs,
hmm
and that's you know uplifted me a little bit during um, this difficult time. But I can honestly say that it's allowed me to experience just a little bit of joy again. So I'm really grateful
yeah.
that music has allowed me to do that. And
hmm
today we are so blessed because you have agreed to perform for us.
hmm
And so what are you going to be playing, and why did you choose this piece for today's episode?
so I'm going to be playing a rag called Yaman. And the reason I chose this rag is, first off, because this is the rag that I was taught first. And I've been playing it now for the last 14 years. And I feel that any musician, any student of music is first taught only two rags, and one of those is Yaman. And the reason I try to understand, because there are so many rags in Indian music, but Yaman is like a very vast, encompassing sort of um, phenomena, in the sense that there is joy, there is it's like a sunset. I cannot find any other way to explain it, but the rag itself has many different emotions, and I thought it would be perhaps easier for me to speak with you for 45 minutes and then go back to my best friend, who's Rag Yaman, because I know Yaman will also take care of me when I am slightly, like right now we're speaking. Generally, before a concert, I would like to have 10 minutes to myself and tune properly and make sure I know what I'm playing. But right now, I know that Yaman is also close to me. And so I can play for 10 minutes and express whatever we are speaking about, which is not entirely an easy subject. I feel diving into the areas in your spirit where you feel down, and thinking about tools to uplift yourself. And so I think that's why I chose to play Yaman.
Excellent. And
Mhm.
I do want to say that the piece that you played for my mom's celebration of life is on my Instagram. So if anyone wants to listen to that, you can visit my Instagram page for Handala. And before Neha performs for us today, just as she suggested, this is an invitation for you to just get still, get silent, and just put away the distractions of the exterior world and maybe close your eyes while Neha plays, and just allow yourself to go on a journey inward. Give yourself permission to feel whatever your body wants to feel while she's playing, and be present to that feeling, allowing yourself to possibly experience your own personal transformation. And
Thank you for
so,
that, Farhan. I will also try to give myself to the music now and play for yours. But thank you so much for this chit chat. I really enjoyed talking with you and exploring, and it sort of felt meditative.
my friends, playing the sitar for us now, I'd like to present to you Neha Mahajan.
Thank you, Farhan.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you again for sharing incredible insights about music and how it could help with grief. Thank you for your energy and for that incredible performance. I am sure we'll be hearing from you through your music, and we'll be looking out for you for your new movie, Kevin Knife. And for everyone, if you wish to follow Neha, check her out on Instagram at Neha Mahajan Official. And you can get more information about Neha on her website at nehamahajan.com. And I will also include all of her contact information and her Instagram in the notes for today's podcast. Thank you so much. I'm Farhan Dalla. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's episode of Elevate Your Life, a transformational podcast. I hope today's conversation has elevated you in some way and inspired you to connect, move, and meditate. I'd really appreciate your support by following and rating this podcast. Come back soon and join me for another transformative conversation.